River. The bottom back my grandpa's
Grandpa
farm.
Rosenbaum.
Yeah.
Grandpa Rosenbaum.
That's where I grew up for the first 9 years. And then I moved up to Vernon Township with my stepmother and my dad. And when I was 9, and that's when I started going to Mount Tabor. So I've been going to Mount Tabor, what,
A long time.
80, almost 80 years.
So how old are you?
I'm 84. So
Wow.
70-some years I've been going to Mount Tabor.
Yeah.
I started 3 churches ago. Mount Tabor. 2 of them burnt down. And the rest of my growing up has been right in Vernon Township. I went to Campbellsburg, graduated Campbellsburg. And then got a job with the airlines, and they sent me to Texas, and I spent 20 years in Texas. Retired out there and came back here. This area just got a draw for it for some reason.
Yeah. What about you, Priscilla?
Well, I think I was born in Scott County, if I remember what Mom said. That just was where the midwife was. But I grew up in Washington County, Salem, Indiana. Went to Salem schools. Graduated from Salem High School. Went to Cincinnati with my Aunt Ruby. She took me over there every summer, and I'd work in her office. She worked for Buick Motor Company, the division over there. And I enrolled in Cincinnati, University of Cincinnati, and intended to go there, but there was a young man that insisted he was getting older, and all his friends were married, and it was just going to be now or never. So I didn't get to University of Cincinnati.
How did you meet that young man?
Blind date.
Really? Who set that
I
up?
said years ago I'd never date a redhead. I didn't date redheads.
I don't know what he had against
Until
redheads.
she came along. I married the first one I dated.
So who set up that blind date?
That was Dean and Jeannie. They were going together, and she was a good friend of Jeannie's, and I was a pretty good friend with my brother. So they set it up. We double dated.
So we married brothers. Jeannie and I married brothers.
Oh. So you knew right away that she was the one?
Something told me that. I don't think I had anything to do with it. I think my whole life has been planned by God, and I've just been following what His leading is.
Okay, so tell me, who is this?
This is that young man that
She said yes to.
and it resulted in that.
So he knew pretty much right away that you were the one. Was it the same with you, Priscilla? Did you know he was the one?
It was gradual. Actually, dating was kind of a new thing to me. I was one of these nerds with my head in a book all the time. And so if Jeannie hadn't initiated all that, we might have not got together. But I think he's right. I think there was a lot of behind-the-scenes work with God.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're quite different, but the skills that we each have kind of complements the other. So I think there was somebody putting that together that we weren't aware of at the time.
So he was the first boy you dated?
Actually, he was. There might have been a little sweetheart or two in the 8th grade, but to actually date, yeah, he was the first one.
Aw. So when did you get married?
Oh my, we've been married
January
61.
4th.
Yeah, January 4th. We've been married 61 years last January 4th. Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful.
Well, you know what? Billy Graham's wife was asked one time did you ever think of divorce? And she said, murder, yes, but divorce, no. And I thought, boy, that is really accurate. That's right on.
So what marriage advice would you give young married couples?
To every one of the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren in our family, I would do everything I could, say everything I could to encourage them to be a Christian themselves, but to marry a Christian. That means everything. That sets a solid foundation. That keeps a marriage together. It makes the right decisions. And you need the support of another Christian if you're a Christian. The Bible tells us that we're gathered together and it's for support. God knows how He made us. We need support of other people.
So what's been the hardest thing about being married?
Living together. No, I don't know. We really had never had a lot of complications. We've had spats, but making up is worth it. Yeah, but really having problems, we never had any problem.
That's good.
He's a very strong-willed person, and that's a good attribute as far as accomplishing things, because he does accomplish a lot because of that strong will. But it's also a detriment if you're trying to live with someone else. Sometimes that gets in the way. But here again, if you're a Christian, you look back at what the basics are, the main things, not the little peripheral things.
Mm-hmm.
That helps you get through those times.
I couldn't have done the things in my life with my own initiative that I was able to do, in the areas that I was able to work and the jobs I was able to get. I took a job that they turned down a guy that had a bachelor's degree and one had a master's degree, and I got it over there. I had no special talent.
Well, he was a hard worker, and they knew it. So that counts for a lot.
Yeah, it does.
But anyway, they hired me, and then I started telling my boss how to do things better.
Imagine that.
And the first management job came open, he recommended me. I think they get rid of me. So I got that job, and then went from there on up.
So what did you do exactly?
I was in management with American Airlines. I started in 56, in 55, 56.
So what does that mean? What did you do? In Louisville, I had 8 flights a day that I was in charge of. And I set up all the gate spaces. I set up all the lead-in line for the airplanes to come in and park, and where everything was set and located. I set all that up. And I managed all the agents and the fleet service clerks, the people that loaded the flights and loaded them back, and the ones that worked the passengers to the gate area. I managed all of them. And then when I went to Dallas, I went from no line cargo people to 45 or 50 agents that reported to me in Dallas. I had about 20 gates at a time that I was in charge of. Share with us something that you did that's a funny memory, or something silly, or just absolutely off the wall that still makes you laugh.
Well, I got one. Our barn was about
This is
twice
Grandpa.
this down to Grandpa.
Grandpa
It's
Rosenbaum's.
the White River. And the barn was a little bit further away than my barn is from this house. And I got the idea that it had a big door in front of it. And I got the idea.
You were up in the loft.
I was in the loft that I could take a 2x4 and I could glide from that big barn roof, open door, to the house on a 2x4. I didn't try it. I'm here today to say I didn't try it.
I can see him thinking that as a little boy even. He's always been intrigued with airplanes. And of course he's spent his work life around planes. And he had a plane of his own, which he flew. He did some ultra-light flying when he was on vacation in Mexico. So flying's always been in his thoughts. I can see him doing that as a little boy.
I've been down this valley right here.
all the way to the Lake John Hay.
I'm glad he didn't do it, but I can just see him thinking that. My passion as a young kid growing up was my horse. I just loved Rusty, and I was on him any minute that I could get on him. But I was at school in 8th grade in Salem, and Rusty was out at the farm. So that presented problems. Of course, my grandmother and grandfather didn't have a car, they didn't drive. So I was a little bit limited on how I could get to him. And but when I lived at the farm, when I was younger, I was able to be with him all the time. And in the winter, I would be in the stable grooming him, and just loved to be around him. I liked the cattle, I liked the calves. My dad milked. He had a little dairy farm, and I always liked being around the cattle and the rural life. It's a great life for a kid. I'm sure I did a lot of silly story things, but I can't think of them right now. The Amish family that lived right here next to us, she said the other day, this is their phone booth. Harold made them
Amish phone booth.
Harold made them a phone booth, so they come over frequently and use the phone.
Anytime they want to.
But Rebecca made the comment the other day, aren't you glad we live in a rural area? And that is so true with all this virus.
You
Yes. How many? 13, 14, 11?
Well, they have 11 children.
11 children.
They're great people. We're very fortunate to have them for neighbors. And we have Al and Rose Yoder over here. You couldn't have better neighbors. Yeah, Al and Rose have, every time we've had a catastrophe, they have been the ones to come rescue us, take us to the hospital, or whatever we needed. They've just been wonderful.
That's good.
And we know we could ask the Amish to help in anything that we would need help with, and they would do it. Yeah, we're very fortunate.
So you have children. Tell us about your children.
Well, we have 2 daughters. One followed us to Dallas and stayed down there. She's a real estate agent. And probably one of the biggest real estate agents in the Dallas area. She sells multi-million-dollar homes. And then you know Christy, of course. And she'll be up here in another couple hours. They'll be up here. They spend a lot of time up here now.
Well,
They
they
think
help
they
us,
have to
so
take care of us.
they come a lot. They know we need help now, and they're very good to do that. They come once or twice a week.
Is it hard to let them help you?
We're getting used to it. We're getting so we like it. Yeah, it is. It takes a little getting used to. When you have your set ways of doing things, and they have their ways they're used to, you've got to meld the two together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Once they learn your way of doing things, it'll work out.
And I grew up in my grandmother and grandfather's home many of my years. And my grandmother always insisted that I go to church and Sunday school. And that was First Christian in Salem, where I went. And I often was going there alone, but that became a family that I wanted to be with. He grew up in a church. He was in Sugar Creek.
Sugar Creek, Mount Carmel, pretty close to where I grew up.
And then Mount Tabor. So we both had church backgrounds. And that was a big help. And here again, if you want the smoothest life possible, and life is not smooth in this world, but the best that you can do is to have a Christian household. That's going to smooth out as many roads as can be smoothed out.
So what do you do when you run into a bumpy road?
Sometimes it's to the point where you need to get a fellow Christian to talk to share with, let them counsel you, let them see maybe a viewpoint that you're not looking at if you're in the middle of a problem. And then the Bible is the best source. I really appreciate this, and I think you do too, this year that we're going through reading the Bible. We've always read the Bible, we know the Bible, but boy, have we learned a lot this year. That has really been good. We try to read it every day, and we have a big, long prayer list of people that we pray for every day. But that Bible is the source.
Is there a Christian truth that you wish more people understood?
Christmas.
A Christian truth that you wish more people understood. In this time right now that our country's going through with the pandemic, and everyone is isolated, and you just kind of, when you look at the whole situation, you realize, don't forget, God is in command. And nothing will happen that He doesn't allow. And He's right there with you. He knows it all. He sees it all. And sometimes I get so frustrated with our political scene and things that we want, our leaders want to do and the people want to do that are not what God wants at all. Abortion is one of the main things that bothers me. But I just have to calm myself down and remind myself that God sees it all. He knows what's happening. And it's just.
I don't know. That was my hardest thing was growing up. When I was down on White River, growing up there. My mom was still living. She had TB, and of course she was bedridden the whole time. But I was growing up. She died when I was about 8.5 years old. She passed away. But dealing with that was the worst thing that I've had to deal with in my whole life. I was close to my mother, and to see her go like that and not have a chance, it's just tough. It's a barnacle type disease. Long time.
It was very common back at those years. And they had the TB asylums.
Yeah.
That there were so many people that had that, and that's where his mother was in one in Evansville.
Yeah.
And they could go down on the weekends and just wave to her. She was up on the second floor.
You couldn't go visit her.
You couldn't go visit her. So that was very hard, but it was a very common disease back at that time.
And there was no treatment.
There was none at that time. I don't know whether they treat for it now or not.
Yeah, they pretty well eradicated it. Of course, we have it coming in from other countries now.
Yeah, that would be hard. It'd be hard to lose your mom. It would be really hard not to be able to visit.
Mm-hmm.
So what got you through that?
That was the worst thing, was not being able to visit.
You had good grandparents, though.
And good grandparents.
Yeah, the Rosenbaums raised those boys after the mother died. And then Gerald, his brother Gerald, he was with his Aunt Ruby. That was a sister of the
Well,
mother.
Gerald lived there for a while also, and my older brother that's in California lived there. We all lived with my grandma and grandpa, all 4 boys, for 2 years. We were all together.
Mm-hmm.
So, mom was in the hospital and Dad was working. He was always gone.
Didn't your grandpa help build Sugar Creek?
He did somewhat. He was I guess he was on the board. I'm not sure how it came about. But they were talking about building a Sunday school room on the Sugar Creek. And they talked about it and talked about it and talked about it. Finally, Grandpa got tired of talking about it. Just went and got some lumber and started building it. So they wound up with a classroom.
You might, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. Is that what I'm
You
hearing?
might say that, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. The Rosenbaum shows up quite a bit in his personality.
Oh.
Which is good. I've learned to adapt to a lot of that and take on that myself, being thrifty. Don't waste things, save things, and you wash the plastic bag and you use it over many times.
So I guess I hold it.
So how about you, Priscilla? What's been something hard that you've had to face, and how did you get through it?
You know, I've really had a pretty easy upbringing, even though I too spent a lot of years at my grandfather and grandmother's house there in Salem. But we had the farm and I had my horse and grew up with cattle, showing cattle at the fair. I had a great rural, typical American rural type raising, which I think is wonderful. I'd wish that for any child. Harold has a saying, and I think he's accurate about it. A boy, to develop correctly, should either be in the military or be raised on a farm. And I think that's pretty accurate. Yeah. So I was thankful for that, to have that rural background. I would say I've had life pretty easy. Everybody has ups and downs and pain at times, but we've really been blessed, and that's not just saying that. When we were first married, we prayed for 4 boys. He was out of a 4-boy family, and we thought that's just ideal, and we just need 4 boys, and that's what we prayed for. We got 2 girls instead, but they have given us the 4 boys and more.